chilling grasp of the night. The shadows grew long as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, signaling the arrival of another ominous night. I had always been a skeptic when it came to the supernatural, dismissing ghost stories and urban legends as mere figments of imagination. Little did I know that this night would shatter my disbelief and plunge me into a nightmare I could never have fathomed. That evening, a strange feeling gnawed at my gut as I retired to my bedroom. The air was heavy, laden with an unexplainable tension. Ignoring my unease, I settled into my bed, eager to escape into the realm of dreams. However, as sleep claimed me, I was awoken by a sense of dread, a feeling that I was not alone. Paralyzed, I tried to move, but my body refused to respond. Panic welled up inside me and my heart pounded in my chest like a caged animal seeking escape. The room was dimly lit, and I could make out faint silhouettes that seemed to dance in the shadows. It was as if an invisible malevolence had taken residence in my room, taunting me. Suddenly, I felt a weight on my chest, suffocating and oppressive. I strained to see what was causing this sensation, but all I could perceive was a suffused darkness enveloping me. A chilling whisper echoed in my ears, a voice so sinister it sent shivers down my spine. "You're mine," it hissed, and I could feel its icy breath on my face. My mind raced, trying to find a rational explanation for what was happening. Sleep paralysis, I thought. I had heard of it before, but never experienced it firsthand. I attempted to move my fingers, my toes, anything, but my body remained frozen. It was as though I was tethered to my bed by an invisible force, subjected to the whims of an unknown entity. The room seemed to morph and contort, taking on an otherworldly appearance. Shadows danced with malevolence, and the walls seemed to close in on me. Each passing moment felt like an eternity, and I desperately wanted to wake up from this torment. In the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing at the foot of my bed. Its form was obscured by darkness, but its eyes glowed like fiery embers. I wanted to scream, to beg for mercy, but my voice was trapped in my throat. The figure drew nearer, and a primal fear gripped my soul. It emanated an aura of pure malevolence, and I knew that it sought to torment me, to feed off my terror. I mustered every ounce of willpower, fighting against the paralysis, and finally, I managed to twitch my finger. But that minor movement seemed to incite the entity further. It hovered above me now, its face inches away from mine. Its features were contorted and grotesque, a nightmarish visage that haunted my very being. I could feel its searing gaze penetrate my mind, probing my deepest fears. It spoke again, this time inside my head, with a voice that reverberated through my very soul.
"You're mine,"
it hissed, and I could feel its icy breath on my face. My mind raced, trying to find a rational explanation for what was happening. Sleep paralysis, I thought. I had heard of it before, but never experienced it firsthand. I attempted to move my fingers, my toes, anything, but my body remained frozen. It was as though I was tethered to my bed by an invisible force, subjected to the whims of an unknown entity. The room seemed to morph and contort, taking on an otherworldly appearance. Shadows danced with malevolence, and the walls seemed to close in on me. Each passing moment felt like an eternity, and I desperately wanted to wake up from this torment. In the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing at the foot of my bed. Its form was obscured by darkness, but its eyes glowed like fiery embers. I wanted to scream, to beg for mercy, but my voice was trapped in my throat. The figure drew nearer, and a primal fear gripped my soul. It emanated an aura of pure malevolence, and I knew that it sought to torment me, to feed off my terror. I mustered every ounce of willpower, fighting against the paralysis, and finally, I managed to twitch my finger. But that minor movement seemed to incite the entity further. It hovered above me now, its face inches away from mine. Its features were contorted and grotesque, a nightmarish visage that haunted my very being. I could feel its searing gaze penetrate my mind, probing my deepest fears. It spoke again, this time inside my head, with a voice that reverberated through my very soul.
"You cannot escape me,"
it taunted, relishing in my torment. Fear turned into anger, and anger gave me the strength to break free from the paralysis. With a mighty effort, I flung myself out of bed and stumbled backward, gasping for breath. The room returned to its normal appearance, and the malevolent entity vanished, leaving me trembling and disoriented. Drenched in cold sweat, I staggered to the light switch and flooded the room with light. I sat on the edge of my bed, trying to comprehend the harrowing experience I had just endured. Sleep paralysis, they called it, but it felt so much more real than any explanation I could fathom. The following nights brought no respite. The malevolent entity returned, night after night, tormenting me with its chilling presence. I sought help from friends, from experts in the paranormal, but no one could offer a solution. I was trapped in a waking nightmare, and the line between reality and horror blurred beyond recognition. As the nights turned into weeks, I became a mere shell of my former self. Sleep became an elusive dream, and even when I managed to drift off, the malevolent entity was there, waiting, always watching. I grew gaunt, my eyes sunken, haunted by the things I had seen in the darkness. I had reached my breaking point when one fateful night, as the malevolent entity loomed over me once more, I found an inner strength I never knew I possessed. With every ounce of courage I could muster, I looked it in the eye and spoke with unwavering determination. "Leave me be. You have no power over me." To my surprise, the entity recoiled, as though my defiance had weakened it. It let out a shriek of fury and vanished into the shadows, never to return. Since that night, the malevolent entity has not returned, but the memory of those chilling nights still lingers in the darkest corners of my mind. I now know that there are forces beyond our comprehension, lurking in the shadows, waiting to seize upon our vulnerabilities. Sleep paralysis, they call it, but I know better. It was a brush with something ancient and sinister, a glimpse into the abyss that lies just beyond the veil of our reality. And I pray that I may never again face the chilling grasp of the night.
Don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications.
Title: Trapped in the Nightmarish Abyss. For as long as I can remember, I've been plagued by vivid nightmares and strange occurrences during the night. Each evening, as I retired to my bed, an unsettling feeling would take hold of me, as if something malevolent lurked just beyond the realm of my understanding. Despite my fears, I always dismissed them as mere figments of imagination, hoping that eventually they would fade away. How wrong I was. One fateful night, the usual unease took a sinister turn. I lay in bed exhausted from the day's endeavors, my eyelids heavy with the promise of slumber. But as sleep beckoned me, I realized I couldn't move. Panic surged through my veins, and I attempted to call out for help, but my voice was stifled, trapped in my paralyzed body. I knew of sleep paralysis, of course, but I had never experienced it before. The terror I felt that night surpassed anything I had ever known. The room seemed to close in around me, and the shadows that danced on the walls took on sinister shapes. I tried to avert my gaze, but my eyes were fixated on a corner of the room, where an eerie figure materialized. It was a tall, gaunt figure, shrouded in tattered robes. Its face was hidden beneath a hood, but I could feel its eyes boring into my soul. The air grew colder, and a putrid stench filled my nostrils, making my stomach churn. I was trapped, at the mercy of this malevolent presence. The figure glided closer, its movements unnatural and unsettling. I tried to close my eyes to escape the horror before me, but my body remained rigid, locked in this nightmarish state. It hovered above me, its cold breath brushing against my skin, sending shivers down my spine.
You're mine.
It whispered, its voice a haunting echo that reverberated through my mind. Its words were a declaration of ownership, a claim to my very soul. I struggled against the paralysis, willing my body to break free, but it was futile. The figure's grip on me was unyielding. Time lost all meaning as I endured this torment. Minutes felt like hours, and the darkness seemed to stretch on into infinity. I felt as though I was being pulled into an abyss, a void of despair from which there was no escape. And all the while, the figure taunted me, relishing in my fear and helplessness. As the first light of dawn crept through my window, the figure retreated into the shadows, leaving me gasping for breath and drenched in sweat. The paralysis finally released its hold on me, and I stumbled out of bed, desperate to escape the confines of my room. Each subsequent night, the malevolent figure returned, and with each visit, it grew stronger, more real. I became a prisoner of my own mind, terrified of sleep, yet unable to stay awake forever. Dark circles formed beneath my eyes, and my once robust frame withered away. I sought help from experts in the occult, from priests to shamans, but none could offer a solution. They spoke of malevolent entities and ancient curses, but none could break the sinister bond that held me captive each night. It was as if this malevolent force had chosen me as its plaything, reveling in my torment. My relationships with friends and family deteriorated as I became consumed by fear and exhaustion. No one could understand the horror I faced each night, and I withdrew further into isolation, praying for a reprieve that never came. One fateful night, as the figure materialized once more, I found myself on the precipice of insanity. Desperation clawed at my mind, and in a final act of defiance, I mustered the courage to speak. "Leave me alone! Release me from this torment!" I cried out, my voice filled with anguish and rage. The figure paused, its hooded head tilting slightly as if contemplating my plea. But instead of retreating, it let out a guttural laugh, a sound that sent chills down my spine.
Release you? Oh, but my dear, you are forever bound to me.
It hissed, its voice dripping with malice. As it spoke, I felt an intense pressure in my chest, as though an invisible hand was squeezing the life out of me. I gasped for breath, but the air around me grew thin and suffocating. The malevolent figure seemed to feed off my suffering, growing stronger with each passing moment. In that final harrowing moment, I realized that there was no escape from this nightmare. The malevolent entity had claimed me as its own, and I was condemned to an eternity of terror and torment. With a final desperate scream, I succumbed to the darkness, and my world faded into oblivion.
Click the subscribe button and bell icon for more nightmare-inducing stories.